the head coach of a National Football League and the coach of one of the most well-known, popular, and successful teams. It's called the New England Patriots. The team and the coach is, the new coach is a black man. He was at a press conference with the owner of the New England Patriots. They were sitting next to one another. And the owner said, he was asked a question about this being the first black coach of the New England Patriots. And he said, I didn't hire him because he's black. I hired him because he's the best coach there is. He actually said, I'm colorblind. I just look for quality. I didn't hire him because he even said, I remember what he said, because he's a person of color. I hired him because he's the best. Now, let me just ask you, all of you watching or listening, wouldn't you want to believe that? If you were black, or so you'll say, well, I can't imagine what it's like being black. Okay, so half of you are women. Would you want to be, let's say you were hired for some very high position. Would you want the person who hired you at a press conference to say, well, I want you to know that we hired Madison here because she was a really good woman, a really talented woman? Or would you prefer that the person who hired you said, we hired Madison because she was the best we could find in the country? What would you prefer, right? So I'm removing the word black from the equation. Is there anybody who would rationally prefer, emotionally prefer, that it be announced you were hired because you are in this group or because you're the best? What do you think is a higher compliment? The owner of the team said, again, seated next to the new coach. The new coach then spoke and differed in every way with what the guy who had hired him said. Just said, there's no such thing as colorblind. You shouldn't want to be colorblind. I'm paraphrasing, but now I'm not paraphrasing. These are the exact words.
I chose the best head coach for this organization. He happens to be a man of color, but I chose him because I believe he's best to do the job.
I do see color because I believe if you don't see color, you can't see racism. So it goes back to whatever it is, black, white, yellow, it really doesn't matter, but it does matter so we can try to fix a problem that we all know we have.
If you don't see color, you can't see racism. So he actually would have preferred that the owner of the New England Patriots had said, well, we hired him in large measure because he's black, to we hired him because he's the best. There is so much to be said about this. I could truly devote the entire half hour of the Fireside Chat just to this subject. This gives you an idea of what I've come to realize in the last 5 years. I always knew it, but now I really know it. If something is repeated often enough, it doesn't matter how absurd it is, how beyond reality it is, how untrue it is. Vast numbers of people will nevertheless repeat it and believe it. So I give an analogy to show how absurd and untrue this whole thing is. If you don't see race, you don't see racism. So in other words, you should see color. If you don't see color, then you don't see racism. Okay. So I give an analogy, and because it's the most dramatic example of hate that we have in the of an ethnic or racial or religious group, the Holocaust, where the Nazis murdered 2 out of every 3 Jews in all of Europe, 6 million out of the 9 million, and in every baby, every grandmother, wherever it was a Jew, you died, you were murdered. Now imagine this. Can you imagine a Jew saying in Germany in the 1930s, the Holocaust began in 41, but the bad stuff started already in the 30s. Hitler came to power in 33. Can you imagine a Jew saying, if you don't see religion, ethnicity, or race, then you can't see anti-Semitism? It's inconceivable. Had the Nazis not seen race or ethnicity or religion, there wouldn't have been a Holocaust. There wouldn't have been anti-Semitism. Every Jew in Germany and in Poland and in Ukraine and in France and every other Nazi-occupied place, they would have literally given their right arm for the Nazis not to see groups, not to see religion, ethnicity, race, right?